Welcome everyone to week 4 of the online photo club. I hope you had a great long weekend. Certainly after starting school again last Monday, it was probably a little difficult to get back into the swing of things. However, you submitted photos and I know how difficult that must have been trying to fit in some time to do the photography club as well. I did something a little different this week. I made a real photo montage slideshow that we had at the beginning. I'm only doing that now because I want to just get to the meat of the lesson. Congratulations to everybody who sent one in. Only 2 things I want to mention about the photos from last week. One is the photo of the week, Maven. Maven, I loved your photo. Let's just pull it up. Now, everybody did such a great job. It was so hard to decide. Now, the only reason I went with Maven's because I love the fact that she had the recipe book right there in the middle. Everything was so perfectly arranged and curated, and the dark tones of the wood really played off of how white the book was. I think it was fantastic. Congratulations, job well done. The only other segment I didn't run in the slideshow was For the Love of Photoshop. So this week's For the Love of Photoshop goes to Avery. Avery, like many people, was unable to get right over top of her photo. It's a little tricky, certainly when you have so much you want to include, and you would have to pretty much get up on a step ladder. So it was such a small fix to Avery's photo, and I'm going to put up what I did. Oh, let's put up first Avery's before photo. So as you can see, it was all about dance, and it is a little bit on an angle. Now in Photoshop, you are able to tilt a photo so the back or like the top of the photo actually comes a little bit forward. It's a 3D thing, so it's kind of tricky for me to describe it in words. So let's take a look at the after photo of Avery's photo. So as you can see here, I lightened it up just a little tiny bit, and I was able to square it off so it looks like she was standing directly over her items. And now I'm going to put up a before and after. So you can see the difference between not quite getting all the way over a photo and me photoshopping it to make it appear as though she was standing directly over her items. It's such a quick and easy fix. A lot of people use this little hack, if you will, and it makes for a perfect photo. So congratulations, everybody. I loved your photos. I wish I could have chosen them all for the love of Photoshop, because it would have been a quick fix for 90% of the photos. So let's move on to our next lesson. This week's lesson will be on shadows and silhouettes. Shadows and silhouettes in photos. You need to remember 2 main things. One, it has to be a sunny day. And you have to focus more on the shape of the item that you are photographing. So let's get into this a little bit more. 1, if you are taking a photo of a silhouette, I'll throw up a quick picture here to show you what a silhouette is. Here's a picture of a silhouette, people sitting on a bench, and you can see only the outline of them. None of the details show through because the sun is directly behind the subject and turning them pretty much into themselves into shadows. It's not a picture of their shadow, it's a picture of them, and it's their silhouette. The number 1 rule for this is that the light source has to be directly behind your subject. What happens is the light will hit your camera. Your camera will try to compensate for all the light bleeding in, and it starts to close things down to make it darker. So all of the details and the skin tones in your subject, or any kind of colors, really almost go black. I mean, you use a little post-processing sometimes to really get as black as you can get with a silhouette, but that's the key to it all. You need that light behind your subject. You're pretty much shooting at your subject, and the light is behind them. What you're shooting, and the light. Now, it is different than a shadow picture. And you can have an option, or you might want to take both. So the second option is shadow photography. It is as easy as it sounds, except for you have to just keep one thing in mind, is that unless you are the subject of the shadow photo, that means if you are taking a picture of your own shadow, you don't have to worry about this. Do not get your own shadow in the photo. It adds for a lot more fun to make it seem like these shadows are existing and they're real. Let's show some examples. First, we'll go over silhouettes. Here we go. Examples of silhouette photography. Now I love this one because it is showing you an object. Okay, so it's a dandelion and the light is setting behind. The person just was like, had their camera pointed at the sunset, put the dandelion in front, the light was behind the dandelion, then the dandelion, then the camera, and they took the picture. And it went, as you can see, a silhouette. So that's this idea that it doesn't have to be a person, it can be a toy. And it really works for this because it has such a dynamic shape to it. It's not just a piece of wood or a stick or a flower that you wouldn't be able to see the edging on because the light can bleed through the seeds of the dandelion. Again, the one I had originally of the people sitting, the family sitting on a park bench at the beach, the light is on the other side of them and you're shooting into it. Now they've got the shadow in this photo too, so it adds a little bit more fun to it. Here's another great idea of a chessboard. Now, the reason this works so well is because the chess piece, the knight, is in profile. And you might have drawn some silhouette photos at some point in school or at home with your parents, and it's the side profile. And that's why this works so well with the knight, because it's so dynamic. You know, it's not just a palm where it's a blob and then, you know, the body and the base of it. So it works really well. So if you're going to be doing a silhouette of a person, you'll want to get their arms moving a little bit, or, you know, their side profile, or them holding something, kind of adding to more dimension to a shape, because that's all you're going to get. You're really taking a picture of a shape at this point when it's completely black. That's all you're really focusing on. Now I'm going to show you, oh, here's one more picture of my son and my husband walking on a beach. My son was talking and the sun was setting, and I snapped this and it was all in silhouette. One last silhouette photo. Now this is Sam Raleigh's photo called Station Squabble. It was picked from over 48,000 images and was deemed the Wildlife Photographer's Award for London's Natural History Museum. It is one of my favorite photos. It just came out, I think, in February of 2020, so it's a relatively new photo, and I'll bring it up here. This photographer got a picture of two mice fighting in the tube. I think it was in England. And here's a little bit close-up of the two mice in silhouette. It is such a wonderful example of silhouette. And let me tell you, this photographer did not just lay down there one day and happen to get these two mice. He probably shot over 100,000 pictures and had many nights in this subway station waiting and snapping tons of pictures until he finally got this one. I'm sure he's over 1,000 pictures of this little fight back and forth between these mice. But it is such a wonderful photo. I just love it. And I think it just really adds to it that it's a silhouette. You're not focusing on the mouse eyes or the mouse ears or anything, the details on the mouse, but the silhouette lets you see that these are two, you know, it's two mice fighting over something, and we will assume it's a piece of cheese. So remember, when you're doing your silhouette photo, it is not about the details, it's about the edges, okay? You're not focusing on a person or a toy or a pet. You're not trying to emphasize how cute their face is. You're trying to emphasize some nice shape, and it's kind of like an abstract photo. It's a lot of fun. I love taking them. But that leads us to shadows as well. So let's go over some real quick examples here. This first one I took at the fair, the fall fair one year. My kids had some cotton candy. The sun was so hot that day. So I thought, well, you can really see how big these cotton candies balls were, certainly in their shadow. So that's what I went for and took a photo of their shadow. As you can see, their shadow is on negative space. They are on the side. They're not directly in the center. So I always kept that in mind too. Certainly with shadow photography, you got to keep negative space in mind. We already went over that. This next one of a cat. I love this photo. The person was way up high and the cat is just one line, but the shadow tells you exactly what the animal is. You wouldn't have noticed it and known it if he just shot that animal. It was a cloudy day. All you would have seen was the image from above. So it's so much more dynamic. And this third photo, completely different photo, isn't it? It's not about negative space. However, you know what the main subject is. It's a photo of this shadow up against this apartment building. So here's the thing. Shadows and silhouette, you need to wait for a sunny day. You have to wait for a sunny day. I think Saturday is supposed to be a sunny day. So really, get out there when the sun's out. Noon will not work. And I will allow you a quick second to guess why. Noon will not work. Because the sun is directly overhead. You will not have a shadow at noon, and you won't be able to take a silhouette. So the best dynamic photos of silhouettes and of shadows happen in the morning at around 10, because it's not all the way up yet and can come right in behind and allow you for a great silhouette photo. Or in the evening around 5 or 6, the shadow will be long. So keep that in mind. Sunny days, hold off for it because it's just too tricky and you might feel like, well, this is as good as it gets and Saturday is going to be a great day for this. So I hope you liked the slideshow and I'm looking forward to your photos of shadows and silhouettes. And I just want to bring up one other thing. We've only got 3 more weeks of this, including this week, and then 2 more weeks of the photo club, and then we are finished. So let's go out with a bang. Let's really try both silhouettes and shadows. You can do them both, certainly on the same day. Take a picture of the person's shadow and then maneuver so the person is right in front of the shadow and shoot the subject. Or, you can take some kind of dynamic toy or doll that you can pose. You can take a photo of that. Certainly shadows can work. Animals can work as well. So remember that. Negative space is going to be your friend here because you want to see that shadow. That's the showcase of the photo. So you want to showcase it almost like when you did lay flat. You want to showcase the shadow. And if you're doing a silhouette, make sure profiles work well, lots of details on the edges, and you will find yourself really happy with what you produce. So, until next week, I look forward to your photos.